In late August of 2018, I was a field tech for the county GIS office, riding shotgun in a white Ford F-250. We were updating road centerlines after a series of floods chewed up the backroads along the river. Our mandate was simple on paper: confirm what's drivable, flag what's not, and record coordinates so the state maps don't get anyone killed. What we found that day never made it onto any official layer. The bell is why I still sleep with earplugs in a place 30 miles from the nearest steeple. Ramon was driving, one arm tanned to the elbow, the other scarred from a brush saw. He liked to call me Magellan because I was the one with the tablet and the offline imagery. The morning was already 90 degrees and wet, cicadas whirring like power lines around the truck. We took County 12 south until the asphalt ended at a barricade and a handwritten detour arrow nailed to a cedar post. The state route should have been 2 ridges over. The tablet showed no spur in this direction, only contour lines and a stream. Ramon tapped the brakes anyway, squinted at the arrow, and shrugged. If locals made the sign, locals knew a way through. We rolled past the cedar and onto gravel that looked newly spread, too clean for a forgotten road. The woods leaned in, tulip poplar and sycamore layering the light green. Within 5 minutes, our bars disappeared and the tablet froze on a blue dot with no path beneath it. "That's the thing about maps," Ramon said, easing around a washout that bit a chunk from the roadbed. "They tell you where people think you can go, not where you'll actually end up." I was about to joke back when we crested a low ridge and the sound reached us, a dull brass heartbeat counting off the seconds. Bong, pause, steady as a metronome, coming from somewhere ahead and low. "Church," Ramon said, but his voice wasn't certain. The road dropped into a hollow and the trees opened onto a wide, quiet street with houses set back under porches, tin roofs silvering in the heat. On no map I carried was there any sign of a street here, yet here it was, complete with mailboxes, whitewashed fences, and a brown dog sleeping in a patch of sun. At the far end, on a small rise, sat a church with a square white tower and a bell that swung like it was pushed by the clock itself. No cars, no people, just the bell striking time against the humid air. I flipped the tablet to satellite and zoomed until the pixels blurred. The canopy showed only trees, the road we'd taken stopping like a stream sinking into limestone. The blue dot sat in a plank of green with nothing labeled for miles. Ramon put the truck in park while I leaned forward and tried to make sense of it. If the town didn't want to be found, the bell had other plans. We rolled to the church and idled beside the steps. The front doors were open, shadow cool inside, the tolling louder, somehow more private. I stepped out with my badge lanyard visible, the one that said County Information Systems because people trusted laminates more than faces. "Hello," I called, projecting the way my boss taught me, not demanding, not timid. The air tasted like warm pennies. A woman in a blue dress appeared in the doorway as if the bell had summoned her. She was older, hair in a bun, hands clean but cracked, eyes the gray of dishwater and storms. "No phones past the steps," she said, though I hadn't taken mine out. "We're county," I said, holding up the laminate. "We're reviewing roads after the flood." "You'll be fine if you don't linger," she said, and looked past me at the truck as if counting its tires. Ramon leaned out his window and nodded, easy, friendly. "Is there a way out to State 47 without backtracking, ma'am?" "There's always a way," she said, "but it's not for everyone." The bell continued its patient work, so regular I could feel my breath wanting to follow it. "Who rings it?" I asked. "No one does," she said, and before I could scoff she turned and went back into the dim. Against every training note in my head, I stepped past the threshold. Inside smelled like lemon oil and old hymnals baked in summer heat. There were pews, a simple altar, and at the back a ladder door you could unhook to reach the belfry. The rope hung there, braided and loose, not moving. Still the bell struck, regular, relentless, as if the church were breathing on a machine. I felt Ramon's hand grip my shoulder, not hard, just a message. "Let's not," he whispered. Behind us, the front doors clicked, and when I turned, the woman had set the chain, polite but unmistakable. "We're on our way," I said, and eased back into the heat, the sound following like a shadow you only hear. At the truck, the brown dog had lifted its head and was staring at our tires, ears flat. Down the street, a man stood behind a screen door, the mesh glittering, his face invisible except for the pale line of his mouth. Another shape moved on a porch swing, barely, like a pendulum that had almost stopped. Nobody waved, nobody came close, the bell did the talking. We backed down the street slow, the crunch of gravel loud between the tolls. The detour arrow that had pointed us in now pointed left, toward an alley we had not seen before. Ramon stopped, window down, mouth a thin line I only saw when he was thinking too fast. The blue dot on the tablet didn't move anymore, no matter which way we pointed the hood. "Okay," I said, "let's ask for 47 again, not from the doorway now." Ramon killed the engine and we both sat, listening to the bell measure out the air. The street felt like a photograph someone forgot in the sun. I picked a house with a flag and a potted fern and walked up the steps. Before I could knock, the screen door eased open and an older man filled the frame. He wore a white shirt buttoned to the throat and suspenders that looked hand-stitched. "We're lost," I said, keeping my hands where he could see them. "We're trying to get to State 47. He nodded slowly, eyes never leaving my badge. "Don't measure it," he said. "If you measure, you stay." "We just need directions," I said. "That's what I gave you," he said. "Don't count, and don't look back." The bell struck again and I realized I had been timing my own breath to it, inhale on the pause, exhale on the hit. The man's mouth made a thin shape, sympathetic and stern at once. "Left at the well," he said. "Then left again when you smell water. If you hear it louder, don't hurry. If you hear it dim, don't stop." "Thank you," I said, because we had to say something human to each other before the next strike. The well was a round stone circle in a pocket of crabgrass, its lid bolted with 2 rusted plates. I hadn't noticed it on the way in. Ramon saw it the second I did and gave a tiny whistle that died fast in the heat. Left took us between 2 shotgun houses whose windows were open but offered no curtains and no movement. The bell kept perfect time behind us, a brass metronome scoring our slow roll. I reached for the radio and then stopped, hearing the man's warning the way you hear your mother when you touch a hot pan. "Don't measure," I told myself. The sound of moving air through leaves rose and shifted, and there it was, the wet mineral scent of a creek. We turned left again and the road narrowed to a single lane of poured concrete as old as our parents. Sycamores leaned over it, shedding papery bark, their roots clutching the banks. The concrete dipped into a ford so low I could see Micah winking in the clear water curling across it. Ramon put us in first and eased on. The bell sounded farther now, like a clock in a neighbor's kitchen through a wall. "Good," Ramon said, and then he flinched because we both realized we'd called it good out loud. On the far bank, the road split, one spur climbing, one curving along the water. We paused, which is different from lingering until you realize it isn't. The bell hit again and my chest tightened to match it. "Don't count," I said. Ramon nodded once and took the river road, tires humming over seams poured before either of us were born. The curve ran longer than it had any right to, and just when I opened my mouth to tell him we'd gone wrong, the cedars broke and the cedar post from that first turn stood ahead of us like a witness. The same handwritten detour arrow pointed inward. Behind us, the town held its breath and then let it out as one more strike. Ramon didn't cuss often, he did then, soft and careful, like he was apologizing to the air. We hadn't turned around, but somehow we had come back. We sat long enough for 2 more tolls and then, with my stomach flipping, I realized I was counting again. "Earplugs," I said, and Ramon blinked. The orange foam pair we kept for chainsaw days were in the glove box. We rolled them down and screwed them in until the world muffled, the bell turned to a heartbeat you could ignore if you pretended hard enough. Without the metronome, decisions felt like ours again. We passed the post without slowing and took the gravel that had not existed a moment ago, a straight shot up a cut the map refused to admit. The dog loped after us, not barking, not playful, not angry, just present, like escort or witness. At the ridge line the signal bars ghosted back and then died, like they were being tested for quality and failed. We didn't look back. 10 minutes later by the dashboard clock, County 12 unfolded in front of us in a latch of bright asphalt and spray-painted cones, exactly where it always had been. We pulled over past the barricade, both of us breathing like we'd just climbed a ladder with a load. The bell kept going, faint and mathematically steady, though there was no steeple on any horizon. Ramon laid his head on the wheel and let a laugh out that sounded too sharp. "That town's not on your tablet," he said. "No," I said. "But it's on the truck." We looked at each other and then at the dash camera light that had glowed red since June. Back at the office, we cued the footage while the fans rattled and the bell in my head tried to keep time with the copy bar. The file showed County 12, us turning at the cedar post, the gravel, the hollow, and then static that bubbled like boiling milk. Audio rolled right through the blank, tick, pause, in a rhythm I could recognize now on a spectrogram as dead even. The camera saw nothing, the microphone recorded a clock with lungs. Our supervisor watched twice and then said the thing bosses say when their world is neat and the data isn't. "You hit a local parade," she said. "A church festival, maybe. Delete it and don't go back until the county signs off." We didn't go back. We couldn't have even if we wanted to, because the next week the detour arrow was gone and the cedar post had toppled into a ditch where no road met it. We listened a while.